So we're gonna have some time of sharing this morning. Charissa and I are gonna lead us in that. We thought, Happy Mother's Day, by the way. I haven't said that yet. We thought it was fitting for Mother's Day. We're gonna be talking about love, and so we're gonna be looking at 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter. Okay, and so we thought to start out, could we have some people volunteer to just read this chapter for us? And if we could get it even in a few different translations, that would be awesome. We had maybe 3 or 4 different people read it from beginning to end. It's 13 verses. That would be awesome. Does anyone want to volunteer to do that? If we had someone read 1 Corinthians 13 and maybe the Message version, maybe NIV, NLT, whatever you have. Dad?
This is from the New King James. He said, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I have become sounding brass or a clanging cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, but have not love, it profits me nothing. Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself, is not puffed up, does not behave rudely, does not seek its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will fail. Where there are tongues, they will cease. Where there is knowledge, it will vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect has come, then that which is in part will be done away. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I shall know just as I also am known. And now abide faith, hope, love, these 3. But the greatest of these is love.
Thank you. Does someone else have that in a different translation?
If I speak with human eloquence and angelic ecstasy but don't love, I'm nothing but the creaking of a rusty gate. If I speak God's word with power, revealing all his mysteries and making everything plain as day, and if I have faith that says to a mountain, jump, and it jumps, but if I don't love, I'm nothing. If I give everything I own to the poor, and even go to the stake to be burned as a martyr, but I don't love, I've gotten nowhere. So no matter what I say, what I believe, what I do, I'm bankrupt without love. Love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut, doesn't have a swelled up head, doesn't force itself on others, isn't always me first, doesn't fly off the handle, doesn't keep score of the sins of others, doesn't revel when others grovel, takes pleasure in flowering of truth, puts up with anything, trusts God always, always looks for the best, never looks back, but keeps going to the end. Love never dies. Inspired speech will be over someday. Praying in tongues will end. Understanding will reach its limit. We know only a portion of the truth, and what we say about God is always incomplete. But when the complete arrives, our incompletes will be canceled. When I was an infant at my mother's breast, I gurgled and cooed like any infant. When I grew up, I left those infant ways for good. We don't yet see things clearly. We're squinting in a fog, peering through a mist. But it won't be long before the weather clears and the sun shines bright. We'll see it all then, see it all as clearly as God sees us, knowing him directly just as he knows us. But for right now, until that completeness, we have 3 things to do to lead us towards that consummation. Trust steadily in God, hope unswervingly, love extravagantly. And the best of these three is love.
Yeah, that was the message. That was so good. Does anybody else have maybe NIV or NLT? Yeah, that works. What did it say?
It's the Messianic Jewish Bible. I may speak in the tongues of men, even angels, but if I lack love, I have become merely blaring brass or a cymbal clanging. I may have the gift of prophecy. I may fathom all mysteries, know all things, have all faith, enough to move mountains. But if I lack love, I am nothing. I may give away everything that I own. I may even hand over my body to be burned. But if I lack love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind, not jealous, not boastful, not rude, proud, or selfish, not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not gloat over other people's sins, but takes its delight in the truth. Love always bears up, always trusts, always hopes, always endures. Love never ends, but prophecies will pass, tongues will cease, knowledge will pass. For our knowledge is partial, and our prophecy partial. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass. When I was a child, I spoke like a child and thought like a child, argued like a child, but now that I have become a man, I have finished with childish ways. For now we see obscurely in a mirror, but then it will be face to face. Now I know partly, then I will know fully, just as God has fully known me. But for now, three things last: trust, hope, love, and the greatest of these is love.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to read another one if you have another translation? NIV. There we go.
If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all that I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love.
I want to say Happy Mother's Day too, now that I have the mic. Okay, so we just heard, I know that was like reading it again and again, but I think the more you hear it, the more things kind of pop out, and just hearing those different attributes, so that's why the kind of intention behind that. And so we're looking today at this chapter, and we see a lot of attributes of love. And so, like I said, we're going to have a kind of an interactive Sunday, so get loose, get ready to share. And so we're going to look first at one question. How does Jesus embody these attributes of love? So we're looking at, well, you can read them up there. And so be thinking about that question. I'm going to share one thing that kind of popped out to me here, but we're going to pass the mic around and do some discussion this week about in what ways do we see Jesus embody when we read the Gospels. And so when I was reading a couple of these different translations, but the Message, I was listening to that one over and over again yesterday, and verse 2 popped out to me. It said, if I speak God's words with power, revealing all his mysteries and making everything plain as day, but I don't love, I'm nothing. And I was just thinking about that and was like, if I had someone come up to me and they're like, I know everything and I can make it plain as day, I will reveal everything, all the mysteries, I would be, tell me. I'd be like, yes, please. I want to know. I want to understand. Like, don't you, like, doesn't that resonate? Like, wouldn't we want to know? And yet that means nothing if we don't have love. Like, that just really popped out at me. The fact that, like, I was thinking about Jesus, and here he is, Son of God, fully man, fully God, and he knows everything. Everything is being revealed to him through the Father. And what we see, the way that he acts, he comes in and, yes, he shares truth. He confronts, he speaks things, but I think the greatest thing that we see is the way that he loves. He is action first in all these stories. The paralyzed man, or the woman who's been bleeding, who touches his robe, or just all these different people, the demons that he casts out, all of this, he doesn't go like this XYZ about God, and therefore he says, what do you want? What can I do for you? And so he just never leaves the marginalized. He is always slow and patient. He lets the little children come to him. And I was reading in, actually I have it over here, so I'm scattered. I was reading in 1 John, which we're going to go back to, but in verse 18, it's talking about love again, and it says, let us not love with words or speech, but with action and in truth. And so, again, it's saying, yeah, we can speak truth. It feels good to, let people know that love and that strength that is in love, and we need to speak truth and all that, but Jesus showed us clearly what it is to have these attributes and to show that. So that's what I was thinking about when I read that and was like, gosh, if we could know everything, that literally doesn't mean a thing if we don't have action and truth. So when we were reading these 4 translations, what popped out? In what ways does Jesus show us love in these attributes?
It's kind of funny because I've been sort of thinking about this in the last week or so anyway. So I feel like the biggest thing hearing those is like just the long game. Like love plays the long game. Like it doesn't. I think so often how frustrating it would be if you're Jesus and you know that you're like constantly misunderstood and people are like getting it wrong. Like my first day on the job, I'd be like, all right, write this down. Let me just be as clear and articulate as I possibly can about who I am and who I'm not, and like that would be my priority. And for him, he's like willing to be misunderstood, mocked, ridiculed, and yeah, just the slow response to things. I think this is something that I've been learning just from parenting even, and something that I think mothers do extremely well is like the lack of impulsive response. Like they can kind of control that moment of emotion and like respond instead of react. And that's like so much to me of what like love is it's like the submitting of the will, like truly like laying down of your emotions, and you still carry like the wisdom and the intellect, but you're not as subject to like just the responses that I think so often we have. And Jesus had lots of opportunities to have those kind of reactions and responses. But love is slow. The slow to anger, the long game, that kind of just like, I don't know, taking your time with it, I think, is what
That's beautiful. I'm not one to be patient and have a long game. It's something for me to learn.
Just think of his humility all the time. He wasn't proud or boasting, like, don't you know who I am? And just listen to me. I got it all together. I know what's right and I know what's true. He wasn't proud. He didn't demand his own way. He was just so humble, all the time.
I think about how he perseveres and never gives up. As a parent, like, no matter what your kids do, no matter what you go through, you are always, always, always there for them, and you never give up hope on anything. And I know for me, being a parent has helped me to see how much God loves me, because I think about how much I love my kids, and I would do like anything for them, and I would never give up. And I think about, gosh, man, God really loves us, because he's like 1,000,000 times more than we could ever be. And so when I think about that, it's like, no matter how stupid I am, or the dumb things that I do, or, you know, or ever have doubts in my head, I mean, I hope I never do, but, you know, just if I ever feel like God's not there, or he's not listening, or that he's given up on me, you know, sometimes the enemy plays tricks on you, but his goal is to destroy your life and to deceive you. And so, you know, there are times that we don't have confidence or courage, or, you know, or just lack of trust in people, and you feel all alone. And for me to know that no matter what the world dishes out on me, that I have a God who always sees me and never, ever gives up on me, I'm overwhelmed with that. Just overwhelmed.
So good.
I was just thinking, you know, sometimes some of these things can be, you know, kind of easy when we're when we're like happy, we're with people who are easy to love, things are going great. But I was just thinking about Jesus, even like in the crucifixion story, when he gets arrested, all this stuff is happening, like how many of these attributes we see there still, like not self-seeking. He heals this guy's ear who is here to arrest him, who is like literally an enemy, you would say, very clearly, and he is not seeking his own interest. He's there like, how can I heal you and see you, and you know, isn't arrogant, like when people are questioning him, he could easily defend himself, and he could easily outsmart all of these people, but yeah, he just trusts the Father. And I mean, I just think, yeah, it's beautiful to look at those kind of situations and say that is just who he is through and through, that's still what comes out of him when he's coming up to his death, and he knows it, and he's not defending himself, and keeps no record of wrongs. You know, praise for the people who are nailing him to the cross. It's just beautiful.
I think one of the evidences of the love of Jesus was, look at the people who felt safe to come to him. It was all the people who normally were outcast. I was thinking of the passage in one of the Gospels when it talks about the story of the rich young ruler. Here's a guy who's got it all together, not necessarily one of the people that Jesus normally reaches out to, but it says Jesus, seeing him, loved him, and he told him the truth, and this young man went away, basically couldn't receive what Jesus had to say, but it didn't keep Jesus from loving him. So one of the, I guess, the tests of our love too is how do we respond, or how do we answer things or people when they come against us and we know they're not our friends, but can we still love them, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I was thinking, that just made me think too of like how he ate with the tax collectors and stuff too, and just what you said. We don't know how they could have reacted badly to Jesus or whatever, but he was like, even though no one really likes you guys, I love you. I want to eat with you and share who I am with you, and had people hate him for that, but he still did it. What else?
So I think what kind of jumps out at me is both, like, doesn't insist on his own way and isn't easily angered. Over, like, the past year, like, as I've read more of the Gospels, I feel like one thing that jumps out is, like, Jesus was constantly interrupted all the time. Like, people were always coming up to him or things were happening, and I'm sure the disciples were like, this wasn't on our schedule for the day. Like, we didn't necessarily have this planned. And so for me, like, I am someone that I love a plan. Like, it really helps me feel, like, safe and secure to know, like, what to expect and what's going on. And something as I've read the Gospels over the years is just thinking, like, help me to care more about people, like the people that you have placed in my path than the things that I need to check off my to-do list. And I feel like Jesus is, like, the perfect example of that. People are always more important than what, like, quote-unquote, needs to get done or what you had an idea of what the day was going to look like. So yeah, that's what really jumps out to me. And also for me, like having a baby like in the NICU and not having a plan, like you just don't know what to expect. I feel like it's been sanctifying in a way. But yeah, that's just what really jumps out at me about Jesus is he did not insist on his own way and isn't angry or annoyed when things come up. And yeah, I think that's just the perfect example of what practical love looks like.
Like, there's nothing harder than when you have a whole plan set for your day and then you just keep getting interrupted. Realize my humanness in those moments. Anyone else? Let's really take 3 minutes and turn to the people next to you and share if anything else was on your mind, because sometimes it's not fun to speak it out loud, but I see some people who haven't shared, and so like go ahead and take 3 minutes and just share if anything popped in your mind with the person next to you.
Okay. Does anybody else have any that they want to share with the group now that you guys have talked a little bit more? Any others that really stood out? I said if anyone has any they want to share with the group now that you've discussed it a little bit more, you can do that.
Mm-hmm. That is a perfect. Mm-hmm. That is where we rest. That we are assured.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. So I was just thinking about this a little bit too, and just thinking about Mother's Day, like there's just so many metaphors that we have for God, and I think we get used to using only a few of them, but the more, like all of them are very insufficient and small. God is so much bigger, better, more active, more beautiful than we can even comprehend or grasp, right? But all of these just paint a little bit of a fuller picture of what God is like. And so I love that God does, and Matthew says, I'm like a mother hen. I want to gather my chicks to me. And so, like Art prayed this morning, that God is a father, and we say that a lot, but also God is like a mother. And I love thinking about all the ways that we see that worked out. And I was just thinking about, even being a mother now, being a mother as a parent is just a very vulnerable thing. It's like this journey of you have this tiny thing, mine is still tiny right now, and you want to keep it close and protect it, and and then it's this journey of them getting bigger and wanting independence and learning to let go, kind of. You're always going to be there, but and that's just a really hard thing, even when I think about, I get stressed sometimes thinking about all the things that Margot is going to face, all the things that are hard in life, and I'm like, how am I going to watch this? I can't even handle it. But when I look at this list, this isn't just God sometimes chooses to be this way, but this is who God is. God is love, right? And so he's not just sometimes choose to be kind or sometimes, whatever. Always, always, always perseveres, is always patient, all of these things. And so it makes it, that gives me so much peace that I can trust Margot, I can trust my kids with this God, that I can say, this is the God I get to introduce you to, so that even when I can't be there with you, and when you face these hard things and I'm not there, and when you make choices that I can't make for you, and you might make bad choices, this God is who I get to introduce you to, that is going to be walking with you forever and carrying you through this stuff. Even with we have Lily with us right now, and so I'm not actually her mom, but kind of playing that role, and so that's a really vulnerable thing too, where it's I'm playing just a tiny part in this, but I'm very invested now, and I want the best for you, and there's so much that you just have to let go and say, okay, God, I trust you with them. I trust you that you always protect, you never give up, your love, your character always perseveres. And so just so cool that this is what our Father is like, and that we get to see God in all the ways that he mothers us too, and it's beautiful. So, and I was thinking about my own mom, because now we're going to take some time and just share, in what ways have you guys seen these attributes embodied by mothers in your life, by your own mother, by women in your life, by people who have been like a mom to you. And I was thinking about my mom, kind of what I just shared is I see that in her so much too, just this really good balance of being this safe place for me, but also letting go and trusting me, and trusting that God has me. Even when I was in college, I went on this semester abroad trip for 4 months and traveled all over the world. They didn't know these people, and my parents were like, yeah, you should go. And I think about things like that, and I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. If my own kids, that's scary. But they just, I feel so when I think about my mom, she's not this controlling, she's just so gentle and gracious and there when I need her always with loving arms and encouragement. But just has been really good at balancing that well. Does anybody else have anything that you want to share about your mom when you look at these characteristics? Any stories of ways that you've seen that lived out by your moms or moms in your life? Tyler, nice job. Yeah.
I just know that me and my brothers, excluding Abby, she was a little younger, didn't always make it easy on my mom, as Dad was always busy with working and keeping us, where we needed to be. She was not very easily angered, and we rarely saw that. She kept it to herself if she was, with all the things that we would do to each other, or, usually it was Ryan's fault. But that's just one thing that sticks out with me.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, not easily angered. I feel like that's good for Kathy, for sure.
The one thing I think about with mothers is that it never ends. It's constant. It's continuous. It's what you were, Emily, what you were thinking about your own child. You're saying your mom and dad still think the same way about you and your brothers. It never ends. When you're the mother, you're the mother forever. And, with our kids, with our grandkids, Kathy is an excellent example of motherhood, and she just keeps somehow everything in balance with no matter what's going on. But being a mother is continuous. It's just a process that God somehow plants into women that we're very fortunate to have.
All right. I was blessed to be given Kathy much later in life. God brought me into this family, and I absolutely love it. And I just want to talk about just recent things. You guys know Kathy had quite a year. And so when I look up at that, the things that stick out to me, especially in thoughts of my own children, is her always putting them before herself. She was sick. The kids didn't know. She would put on a face. She would smile. It took a really long time for this little guy to catch on. And when he did, it hit him like a brick. It was hard. But she just put them before herself. She would put on that face. She would be strong. They never really got to see probably her hardest moments. And so that is kind of what weighs on me when I look at that, just being strong, putting others before you, even when you have been handed the hardest things to go through. So that's kind of mine. Do you have anything? No? You're like, Dad, you don't want to talk?
Yeah, thank you. We love you, Kathy. That's beautiful.
So my mom is awesome, and she's here. I could write novels about my mom and how amazing she is. One thing that jumps out at me is doesn't rejoice about injustice, but rejoices with the truth. My mom, probably more than anyone, has such a strong sense of she just hates the things that break God's heart. Like, my mom hates injustice. And she always, always, always is just like, I just saw, like, sometimes she'll send us even things on Facebook, and I'm like, Mom, you gotta stop sending us these sad things about injustice on Facebook because they're making me sad. But she just, to me, that just totally reflects God's heart. Just the fact that injustice really does break God's heart, and it's like a big deal when people do things in the name of Jesus that don't line up with the heart of Jesus, or when people are suffering like the people God cares about. And so that's just something that jumped out at me when I was just thinking about my mom, just the fact that that totally reflects God's heart, and that's something that I hope gets cultivated even more in me. Like, I want my heart to break for the things that break God's heart, and rejoicing with the truth, because the truth is worth rejoicing. So.
It's going to be kind of tough to beat that one. But I would say the one for me that resonates with my mother would be cares more for others than for self. I think that's something that's kind of effortlessly just kind of glowed about her, from my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else?
Encourages maturity, it doesn't manipulate. I kind of got that echo from you too. You think about it. So it's always that encouragement, mature, instead of manipulating people.
I'm going to share about two people. First, I want to talk about Arnita, because she is someone who mentors me and has spoken so much. I get to hang out with her and Beth now too every Monday, and she's just someone that like is so patient and always hopeful, always looks for the best in people. I think that's something about love as well. I'll like be ranting about something at work, or like someone that like annoyed me, probably someone who interrupted me, like we were talking about earlier, that like couldn't get anything done. And she just is always so quick to say, what do you think was going on in their life? Like, what do you think has happened? Or not even like ask, just like, oh, I wonder what's going on. Like, just always quick to think of the other person. And I've learned a lot from her with that, to slow down and, and then of course I have to share about my mom because it's Mother's Day. But she, when I read Always Trusts, that's something that both my parents, but like my mom, and doesn't insist on its own way. As they've raised me, they've said it, my mom has said it, like, I've raised my kids and I can trust them. And so when I'm making decisions, often I'm like, tell me what to do. I just want to know. But to have her, like, talking about that, that not manipulation, but rather just like instilling trust in me of just, and I trust, even if it might not be my own way or might not be what I choose for you, I trust you to make this choice, or trust you to, and move in that. And it instills this like courage in me. It instills just knowing that like I have someone who just has my back. And she just shows love in that way a lot of times. Should we have him take 2 minutes to... Yeah, 2 minutes. Talk to the person next to you again about something, about someone. Just share one thing about a person in your life. It doesn't have to be about your mom, but who mothers. So take a minute and a half. Okay. Told you it'd be quick. Just good to recognize these things about what love is and how we've seen it kind of echo in our lives through women in our lives. Yeah, that's because everyone loves moms so much and they want to keep talking about them. So great. Okay, yeah, just saying, I just love that we can just share that of ways that we see love echoed. Okay, so last bit here, and then we're going to take some communion together. We'll be out a little early today. But reading more about love, and in 1 John 3:16, this is what it says about love in this part of the Bible. This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. And then jumping to verse 18, again, we read this earlier. Dear children, let us not live with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. And so that's what love is. The Bible tells us straightforward that Jesus laid down his life for us, and that was what true love was, and that's what we ought to do. And so how do we see the moms or the women in our lives demonstrate love that looks like this? And what does it look like for us to live like that? What does it look like to demonstrate love in a way that we give of ourselves when we think of these attributes? So any thoughts? That might have been a rhetorical question. Wendy is looking confused, so I might not have asked it well. So in what ways do we talk about, or the Bible here talks about, this is what love is. Jesus laid down his life for us, and this is what we ought to do for our brothers and sisters. So practically, what does that look like day in and day out to love in that way, to love in that extreme?
Just kind of like thinking of Kathy, she didn't always feel good, but she would get up and care for her family. And I was telling Dave, my mother, when I think back most of my life, my mother didn't feel well and she was in bed a lot. But she would get up and say, let's go make supper together, or I will help you with your homework, or whatever. She would keep, giving of herself, laying down her life, even if she didn't feel good. And Dave's mother, goodness sakes, I can't even begin to imagine all that she did. But just thinking about when they would go to bed at night, what things they were thinking. They were probably depressed, they were lonely, they were sad, whatever. But we didn't know that, because they would just keep giving, and I'm sure Kathy was the same way. And so, yeah, just keep giving and loving and giving of themselves.
Putting others first. Any other thoughts that popped up?
I've always enjoyed being a mother. And I realized, it was going to be kind of a sad day when they're all married and move on, But I just realized that you can keep mothering. That expression, we don't have to let it die, that there's many people that need to be, like you said, people in your life that are keep adding into. And so I can be busy mothering people. I still like to do that. So hopefully to the right people. But, just in other words, he doesn't want us to waste that those things that we learned the hard way, that he taught us, that are still so precious to us. We just get to bless other people with some of that. It's not wasted.
Right. It's formational. Yeah. creates us to who we're meant to be. Anyone else? We've said a lot of things that translate over to this question, I think. So when we take those attributes that we've been talking about this whole time and apply them, put others first, and slow down and see people and love them well, I think that's when we see it. Okay, Emily's going to lead us in communion. And Margot.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna take communion. Mom, could you come up and play? I think you know, kind of like I said earlier, some of this stuff, it can come more naturally to us when it's to our own family, our own kids, or people close to us. But I think, you know, as God said, I'm a mother drawing my hands. I want to gather you to myself. And God is this, we are all His kids, and His heart is for us to always be expanding our hearts and our circle of the people that we are loving, you know, that we wouldn't just think of our own small families and say, I'm going to love them like this, but that we would be a people who would live this out with our enemies, who would love our enemies like this, who would love the people that are the hardest to love, who would love the people on the margins like this. That's the goal, right? That's who God is. Jesse sent this morning. I want to just read this. It says, love is not some small-minded ideal that we bypass on the way to weightier theological principles. Love is PhD-level Christianity. In our pursuit of Jesus, we will spend the rest of our lives learning to love more passionately, intimately, intentionally, and transformationally. There is no higher call. Okay, so like Charissa said, we want to keep learning and growing, but this is the ultimate goal. We want to learn and grow so that we can continue to be these people, right, who follow Jesus and are becoming more like Him. And so, why don't you guys come up and grab the elements, and then I'm just going to, pray that over us, that we could, that as Charissa just read there out of 1 John, that Jesus says, or that this is how we know what love is, that Christ laid down His life for us, right? And so now we get to come and be a part of that and take His body and His blood and let that do its work in us and say, God, we want to be like You. We want to become people of love. So you guys can go ahead and come up and take those back to your seats. And so Jesus was with his disciples. He washed their feet. The last thing he did with them before he left was to have this meal with them, right? He said, take my body, my blood. I am creating a family. I want you to be my body in the world, to be my hands and my feet. So let's just take the bread. And drink. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for your body. God, we just love you. Communion is one of those things that is a beautiful symbol, and there's so much we could say about it. And we just trust your Spirit, God, to do its work in us. We do just want to learn how to be your hands and your feet. As we take your body and your blood, we want to become like your body in the world, Jesus. We want to take serious what you did for us and the way that you lived this stuff out in your life and your death. I thank you that love is not this small, cute little thing, that it's this deep call that you've invited us into, Jesus. Show us how to love, how to become people of love, God. Pray that your body and your blood in us would just, work to transform us. That we here at English Lake would continue to be your body. And I just thank you that we are a part of this bigger body, that we get to all together be your church and be your hands and feet. We just thank you for all of our moms, all the moms and the ladies in our lives who have lived this out and showed us what it looks like to love and to care and to be patient and nurturing and faithful. So we just pray a special blessing on them today too. We thank you for this time together. Pray that we could leave today with just, hearts that love you even more, that are able to see even more how beautiful you are, how present you are with us in every situation. We just give you this day and this time, and we love you so much. Amen. Amen. Happy Mother's Day. Go love on your moms. Enjoy the weather.
Oh.